Hello, everyone. Welcome to Instructor Orientation. So we're excited to have you teach with us another year. The purpose of this orientation video is to inform you about our current and new policies and procedures for education and training. I'm Rakita Irvin. I'm the Director of Community Education here at AFS. Been with AFS almost 3 years. I lead our training and education programs, including Creative Careers, which is our workforce development program.
Awesome. Thank you, Rakita. Hi, everyone. My name is Jake Ramon. I'm the program manager of community education here at AFS. And so I am the sort of point person for instructors, as as many of you already know, and who anybody who's watching this who's new will soon come to find out. So I have been here on staff for about a little over 2 years. I'm very excited to be working with each of you. And one person that I wanted to mention as well, who you're going to be hearing a lot of, but you're not going to see on this particular recording, is our program coordinator of community education, Marlitza Mendez. She is the person that runs the workforce at email. And so she is the person that corresponds with instructors usually a few days before class happens to confirm that, we're all good, that you've got everything you need. So just wanted to point out that Marlitza Mendez is also a wonderful part of our team. And so now I'll pass it over to Doug.
Well, thanks, Jake. My name is Doug Gray. I'm the general manager of Austin Public, and I oversee the facility and the operations team that we have here. I've been with AFS now for 9 years, and I was a part of the previous organization back in 2010 that was running it until AFS took over. And a couple people I'll mention, we have Darian, who is our coordinator. She's the one that will be printing out handouts and the takeaways and things. She'll be on site when classes are happening. So if there's anything you need or any last minute changes or things, you can work with her. She also manages the Austin Public at email. And then we have Josh, who's our facility operator. Well, actually now he's the assistant manager. Sorry, that just rolled off. Yeah, he's the assistant manager now of Austin Public, but he is the one that's managing the part-time staff, which are creative careers graduates. And so they'll be helping set up gear, set up tables, and just whatever setup your class needs. So Josh would be your go-to for any resource needs or facility needs during class time, and also for cleanup afterwards.
All right, thank you, Doug. So just to give you all an idea of what this particular meeting, this particular session is going to be about. So our agenda is going to be as follows. So first, we're going to start off reviewing the class registration process and any existing policies that we have around classes. For many of you, this is going to be, information that you're already aware of, but do know that there have been some slight changes in some of the public-facing policies and in some of the things like some of the flows and categories of the classes that we have. So we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page in regards to this. There's also, we're going to review pay structure. There's now 3 levels of pay structure depending on the type of class that you teach, which we'll get into in a little bit. And that, as well as any kind of new policies that maybe weren't in effect before. Specifically, we're going to talk about this new step that we're going to add to the flow of instructor communication to confirm classes. And so we'll, again, get a little more in depth further into the presentation. We will also talk about the takeaway document. The takeaway document is something that applies only to certain classes. You'll know which classes it applies to once we get to that specific slide. But this is a new thing that we have implemented in place of quizzes, and we'll talk about that as well during this presentation. We'll also be talking about instructor one-on-ones. This is a very standard part of our workflow at the beginning of every fiscal year. We check in with all of our instructors during one-on-one appointments, and Rakita will get a little bit into what's involved in those particular meetings, why they're necessary, what we review, all of that. We'll also talk about syllabus and curriculum requirements. These are 2 documents that you are required to submit to us whenever you are teaching a class. And this applies to pre-existing classes, and this applies to new classes that are going to be rolled out. And so we'll get into that as well. And then we also have some changes to our instructor perks. Being an instructor here at AP, you do have access to a certain amount of perks, which are detailed on your instructor agreement, but we'll go into detail as to exactly what that looks like and how you can take advantage of that. And then lastly, Doug will give us an overview of what Producer Program is. So all of you are kind of, aware and oriented in case you get questions from anybody who teaches your class. And then we will wrap up from there. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Doug.
This page. And so this is on our website, and I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but we've got 3 different types of classes. We've got resource certification, continuing education, and workforce development. And the 2 classes that are on our website for the public to view are going to be those top 2, the certification and the continuing education classes. And so we are in the process of adding some new bios to the website and some making sure we're kind of going through and making sure there's the bullet points of everything that somebody would learn and for somebody that would get access to gear. And so let me jump in here and share my screen. All right. So we are on the website, and this is our classes and events page. And typically we have a month to 2 months worth of classes posted. And so someone can scroll through, and then right on this page, they can see whether a class is in person or online. And then the different tags that we use for those 2 public class tags are going to be resource certification and then continuing education. And so, someone who's on the website can click on either one of those and see all of those type of classes and get a little bit of a description around that. And they could go back and click on continuing education. And so these are the classes, the continuing education are open to anyone in the public, whereas the certification classes now are strictly for producers at an intro level, and then intermediate level classes for cameras we do consider to be both. And then a good example of how we're trying to build out some of these pages to have a lot of information and have bios is this new Principles of Cinematography workshop. It actually has 2 instructors. And so you can see on the left, it has the date, price, location, and then required knowledge. So if something does require a student to have some information coming into the class, it'll be listed there. And then also we have the descriptions, the bulleted list of information that'll be taught, and then some bios on the 2 instructors. And then another good example of this is Intro to Pro Tools for Film. We also have a bio. And so these are things that if it's a brand new class, we do have a form that we'll send you, and you help fill out this information, and then we can create these pages. And then when somebody clicks on a class that is a certification class, then they click register now, they will most likely see this page if they're not logged in. And so it'll say it's not on sale and that it's restricted to producers only. And so when they do log in, if they are an active producer, so again, this is for intro certification classes, then they will find this page where they can actually select a quantity of ticket and buy the class. And this is where we have our class policies. So just as a reminder, we do not allow walk-ins. Somebody has to have a ticket to the class. We do allow someone to buy a ticket, usually about a half hour or an hour before the class starts, but it does need to be done online, preferably with a card. We do take cash if needed, but our staff handles all that. You do not need to worry about that, but we don't allow walk-ins. So if someone is not on your roster, then please go grab a staff member, either Josh or Darian, and they can help sort it out. We do allow participants to have a 15-minute grace period to be late. It is totally up to you. You reserve the right to deny someone entry into the class. I think all of us have a sense of when too late is too late, when we've already taught too much. So again, you can grab a staff member, we can talk to them, we can roll them into the next class. And then the other things here for us to deal with, no shows, things like that, refunding when that happens. But just be careful, with walk-ins. Again, it's up to you how late someone can come in, and don't allow any walk-ins for someone that's not on your roster. Okay, and that's it. I'll throw it back to, let me stop sharing, and I'll throw it back to Jake.
All right, so I will take it over from here and talk about pay structure. So there's three rates. There's three levels of rates that you can charge us depending on the type of class that you teach. Our first level is at 45 an hour. This is for intro level classes. If you're curious about whether your particular class maybe is considered intro level, odds if your class title literally has the word intro in it, so like intro to field audio, intro to Sony FX line, those are the classes that we will consider intro. Then we have a second level, which is 55 an hour, and this is for intermediate level 3-hour classes. So, this could be things like, pre-production planning. This could be things that are maybe a little more, this could be intermediate field audio production. Sometimes they'll have the word intermediate within the title. And then we have a third tier, which is $65 an hour. And this is an intermediate or advanced level class that is more than 3 hours long. If you're unsure if your particular class like maybe applies to this particular tier, just reach out to me, reach out to one of us. Like we're happy to clarify for you. But wanted to let you know that depending on the class that you teach, that is the rate that you will charge us depending on the type. And this price breakdown is going to be included in your new contract, so you'll always have reference to it. Now, I did want to remind y'all and also introduce some of you who are new to this concept of development hours. So every class is allotted a certain amount of development time, especially if you are developing out a new class, like something that we've never taught before. Every class is given a certain amount of development hours that you can charge us $20 an hour for. And this is time that you spend on your own fleshing out the class. Like, what is it going to look like? What do you need? This is working on your syllabus and curriculum, which Rakita will get into in a little bit. But every class is given 8 hours of development time at the start of a new fiscal year. So we just started our new fiscal year. All classes have sort of been reset to 8 hours. And this is something that we do keep track of. So if you for whatever reason, have been continuing to use development time and we get a little further into the year and maybe you've surpassed 8 hours, this is something that we will reach out to you and let you know that, hey, you have reached your limit for development time. In which case we will book a meeting with you. We'll figure out kind of like, what else is needed. Is there any other changes that maybe we'd want to make? And then maybe consider if it needs to be a new class entirely. So that's something that we'll be corresponding with you about. But just be aware, 8 hours per class and then $20 an hour for development time. Now, speaking of which, we require here at AFS you to use a very specific invoice template whenever you're invoicing us after a class. It's not a particularly like robust thing. I know that many freelancers kind of have their own, kind of signature stylized like invoice. We have this sort of very bland and simple invoice template that we ask instructors to use. The reason for this is because our budgeting system requires us to be able to say that you teach the same class, but maybe across different programs. Well, we budget that from different buckets. And so there's a section which I've sort of screenshotted here on the right side, that at the bottom of the invoice template, you'll notice this section here that says for staff use only. This is not something that you touch. This is not something that you need to be concerned about. You'll just fill out the first invoice page as you see. And then when you submit that to me, I use this particular section to sort of separate out like, the type of buckets that our billing department needs to pull from. So this new invoice template is basically the same if you had been using the previous one. The only difference is that this for staff only section now has 3 sections instead of 2. And I also added a $65 an hour rate option on the dropdown. You'll notice that whenever you're trying to put in the rates, there's a dropdown of rates, and it used to be just 45 and 55. Now there's a $65 an hour option. And like I mentioned, the for staff only section at the bottom now has 3 rows instead of 2. So I'll be sending that out via email, and that's also going to be included in, if you're a new instructor, there's a Google Drive link of onboarding materials that you will have access to, and this template will be included on there as well. Alrighty, so instructor policies. So we have this new step that we are adding to our instructor communication workflow that I wanted to make sure that all instructors were aware of. So the way that our current workflow works in terms of confirming classes is, first, I will reach out to an instructor, usually about 2 months out, and I will say, hey, can you teach a class on this particular date and time? The instructor will then be like, yes, that works for me. I will send them a calendar invite, and then we're good to go. Then that's set. Then usually a couple days before, Marlitza from the workforce at email will reach out to the instructor to give sort of a final confirmation, like, hey, just confirming that we're still good. If there's anything that you still need, instructor will respond to Marlitza being like, we're still good, confirmed, all of that. Now, we have this new step, this new thing that we are actually requiring all instructors in this new fiscal year to download, and this is called the Remind app. This is an app that you can download onto your phone. You'll notice that there's a QR code here on the screen that if you hold up your phone, you can it'll take you to the Remind app and you can download it. Essentially, what this step is this is kind of our this is sort of a built-in like other way that we can reach out to instructors if for whatever reason we haven't received this final confirmation. So like for what say that Marlitza reaches out to you and a couple days before your class, and maybe it's the morning of and we still haven't heard back from you, or maybe there's a way that we need to reach you quickly. Maybe there's a storm coming in. Maybe there is like a sudden class cancellation. Maybe there's a facility issue. We will use this app to send you a text. And we will only do that in the event that there is a need for us to reach you quickly, or if we haven't heard from you and we need a final confirmation. So it'll send a text message to your phone. And it also works the other way. So if you need to reach one of us quickly, you can use the Remind app to send us a message being like, hey, I'm running late. Hey, I need to cancel if anything comes up. So this is going to be a new part of the process that we're going to require all instructors to have. And if we don't hear from you via Remind, then we reserve the right to cancel the class because we do need to know that you are going to show up. And just as a reminder of cancellations, you can have up to 3 cancellations in each fiscal year within 2 weeks of a class start time. Obviously, it's not ideal because we do schedule these classes like, pretty far in advance, but, we know that things happen, gigs come up, like all of that. But if that happens 3 times or more, then your contract may be terminated because this is something that we'll have to issue refunds, and sometimes it's very hard for us to get, to have participants roll into the next class depending on availability. So just as a reminder that like you can get up to 3 cancellations, at which point then we will need to re-examine your contract. All right, now I will pass it to Doug for takeaway documents.
All right, and I'll just add to that last part too that the classes right now, knock on wood, are selling out. So usually if we do have to postpone a class, then, we're having to reach out to 4 to 8 people and they have to roll in the next month. So it is a little bit of more administrative work on our end too. So just kind of keep that in mind. Gone are the days of, worrying if your class is gonna fill up and, be canceled on our end. That really hasn't happened in a while. And so with certification classes, that have tests, we are moving away from those quizzes, and we are now using what's called a class takeaway. And we have the majority of these in place. We're still waiting on a few more, and you've most likely received an email from Jake about that if we need one from you. And this is it takes the stress away of a test. We're not really here to stress people out. There's no requirement with the city contract that we have these tests. The classes are part of our contract that we are training people on how to utilize the resources before they take it out of the building or check out a studio. But we feel that these takeaways are better because they actually get to take it home, and it's sort of a worksheet that they can do collectively, collaboratively in the class together before the end of the class, and then they get to take it home, and it's just a good cheat sheet for the future. So again, no more tests, and please, if you are it's outstanding that we do not have one from you, then please get that to Jake ASAP. All right, throw it to Rakita.
Thank you, Doug. Instructor one-on-ones. So Instructor one-on-ones are mandatory meetings with Jake and myself via Google Meet, about 30 minutes. We schedule these meetings at the beginning of our fiscal year, so starting in September, and we review individual classes, class materials. We share feedback and have an opportunity to discuss that feedback, review policies, and preview things for the coming year regarding your class. We also review syllabus and curriculum updates, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. And if there's anything that comes up after the meetings that you have a question about or that you want to discuss, definitely feel free to contact us. So syllabus and curriculum. So these are two documents that are required of all instructors, and you'll see a template for each on the right side here. And at the top is the syllabus, and it basically includes the course summary, a brief course summary, the objectives, length of the course, your contact information and your name, your policies and procedures for your course, an outline, a schedule, assignments, as well as resources. So this document is made available to all of the students in the class so that they can get a overview of what the class is all about prior to taking it. The curriculum document, you'll notice the template on the right is blank. So it's basically meant for you to fill out and to include a more detailed outline of your course. It's usually 1 to 2 pages, and it is going in a little bit more in depth into the way the class is structured. Now, that is something that is available for us to review internally and does not necessarily go out to the students. So every class should have both documents. So if you teach more than one class, that means that we need a syllabus and a curriculum document sent to Jake for all of your classes that you teach. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Doug is going to talk to you about perks.
All right, I'm mostly closing it out from here. But so instructors do get perks that are listed on your contract, and it includes a free access to the producer program, which is access to the resources for the length of that contract. And then that'll, if it renews, then that access will renew. And then a new perk is that you as an instructor will have access to any Austin public class for 50% off. And that would be to register at any time. So before, it was just a few days before the class started if there were available spots. But as I mentioned earlier, classes are selling out pretty often. And so we want to give you this perk to register at any point once the class is posted. And then if there's equipment or facilities that you use to either teach as a certification class or part of your workshop, then we are just going to give you that certification. You do not have to take a class. So if you don't have that certification, please reach out to Austin Public at email, and we can get you that certification. And I know a lot of you already have these and are already using them. All right, and then we are going to give at some point soon instructors t-shirts that it can be a combination, but we've got Austin Public t-shirts. We've got our 50th celebration for public access TV from a year ago t-shirts. We've got AFS t-shirts. And we're not requiring that you have any that you wear it for classes. There's no dress code for that, but it is something that you could. It's cool to have the instructor show up and be representing AP or AFS. But it's just to have. You can have the shirt, wear it, rep AFS out in the community as well. So look forward to that. And there'll be some other potential swag that we can give out as well above shirts. All right, so we're going to finish up with the producer program overview. And I like to do this just as a reminder, and also for new instructors to kind of set the stage on certain expectations that we have of the producer program. And so it's a member of the community, the 5-county metropolitan area of Austin, anyone ages 15 and up. And they become certified to use the video production resources at Austin Public, all the cameras, the lights, audio, studios. That is optional, but if they want to gain access to those resources for their own creative projects, they have to take these classes. There are no test outs. These classes are required, and it's a la carte. It's what you want access to. If you want to show in Studio One, take Studio One class. If you want access to a Sony camera to take out, take the Sony, intro to Sony FX Line class. And then once they create something, then they are obligated to provide at least a portion of that to us to share out to the community through the public access cable channels and our streaming services. And so, we go to the next slide. So within the program, it's a community of content producers. Right now, we're about 450 producers. We do have mixers throughout the year. All the production equipment is accessible. Our 2 larger studios, Studio 1 and 2. We have Studio 3, the video podcasting space. We have a conference room, content distribution, and then live programming. And so if you go to the second to last slide, So the big takeaway is that we are non-commercial. So I know with Creative Careers, we are teaching individuals, professional and workforce development to gain access into the workforce, and we support them, in that process. But once a Creative Careers graduate rolls into the producer program, or you have someone who just joined the producer program without having been involved with AFS otherwise, their focus needs to be non-commercial. And they learn this first with me in media policy. So this is not on you as the instructor to sort of, let them know this, but just as you're talking to them, we want to make sure we're not mentioning, when you get this gig, or if you're doing this for this, making money and things like that. They do sign off that they're not conducting trade or commerce. Now, once they've given us content to air on the channels, then they are free to do whatever they want with it. But we have to make sure that we're talking about Austin Public as a community program that is non-commercial, similar to like what PBS content is, and not simply a rental house for gear. Like, we want to get rid of that sort of, in a sense, it's sort of a stigma around what public access is these days. And we want to make sure we're talking about being a community program and collaboration and community and distribution as well. And so the last one is that we are content neutral. And so that means that we are not pre-screening, we're not choosing what goes onto the channels, but we are open to, all types of productions and viewpoints in support of public dialogue. So that's also really important, that people are coming in and creating their art, and it's not on us to tell us what that art is. All right, and that's everything I've got.
All right. Well, that concludes our instructor orientation. Thank you, everyone, for watching and for joining. And please reach out to, this is my email here, if you have any questions or follow-ups about any of these policies. And yeah, thank you again for watching this presentation.